I stopped explaining myself 3 years ago. This is the story of the night the building explained everything for me. My older sister, Vanessa, called me on a Tuesday evening and used her warm voice. She said, "I really want you there. My name is Jade, I am 24 years old, a business owner in Memphis, Tennessee," and I knew exactly what was coming before she said the next part. She said, "I thought you could use the work, it's coat check, it's easy, the tips are good." I said, "Which venue?" She gave me the address. I already knew the address. I said, "I'll be there." She said, "I knew you'd understand." I said, "I do." What Vanessa didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that she had just booked her 31st birthday party at my building. She had booked through an event planner and everything was processed under the LLC name. She had never seen my name on anything. I had been the sole owner of that riverfront pavilion for 2 years. I hung up the phone. I looked at the photo of my grandmother's kitchen on my office wall. I smiled. 3 years ago my catering company collapsed. I had built it from nothing, sourced the equipment, built the client list, hired the staff. My business partner embezzled the accounts and disappeared. I lost everything in 4 months. My older brother, Marcus, handled it the way he handles most things, by explaining me to other people. I was at a family dinner when I heard him through the kitchen door. He was talking to our cousins. He said, "Jade's going through something right now. We love her, but she's just not in a position to be at the table. You understand?" He said it warmly, like concern, like a fact. My mother, Carol, was in the same room. She heard it. She said nothing, which was its own kind of answer. Vanessa stopped introducing me at gatherings after that. She would smile and say, "You know Jade," and move on. I was background. I was the relative people nodded at. I stopped correcting the story. I stopped explaining myself. I started building instead. The catering collapse taught me one thing that turned out to be worth everything. I had been building the wrong thing. I had been building a business that depended on other people's events. What I needed was to own the room itself. I spent the first year after the collapse working 3 jobs and learning property acquisition. I spent the second year forming an LLC, named it after the street where my grandmother lived, the street where I learned to cook. I found the riverfront pavilion through a distressed property listing. The previous owner had let the permits lapse. I spent 8 months in permitting hearings, renovation management, and vendor negotiations, alone, quietly, without telling my family anything. Not because I was hiding, because I had learned that the people who dismissed me when I had nothing were not the people whose opinions I needed while I was building something. Rosa once mentioned that several people had approached us with acquisition offers in our first year. One name on the list caught my attention. I said nothing about it then. The event was booked for a Saturday. By Thursday, Rosa had flagged 3 separate contract violations. Vanessa had invited 312 guests to a venue permitted for 240. The 72 extra guests were scheduled for a later dinner arrival slot, not the opening reception. She had submitted a revised headcount to the caterer, but not to us. She had also paid 60% of the venue balance and submitted a note saying the remainder would be handled at the event. 2 of the 3 vendors she had hired had contacted Rosa to report that Vanessa had tried to renegotiate their fees after signing. Rosa called me on Thursday evening. She said, "What do you want me to do?" I said, "Follow protocol." She said, "Standard protocol is lockout pending balance and headcount compliance." I said, "I know." Rosa said, "Your sister doesn't know this is your building." I said, "I know that too." There was a pause. Rosa said, "Okay." I heard her click her pen. My chest was steady. Saturday morning my phone started ringing at 10:47, Vanessa first, then Marcus, then Vanessa's event planner, then Vanessa again. I was sitting at my desk inside the building. The doors were locked per protocol, balance unpaid, headcount unresolved, 2 vendor disputes unaddressed. I could see the family gathering outside through the glass walls. Vanessa was in her birthday dress. Marcus had his hands on his hips. Vanessa texted, "The venue is locked, we can't get in, I need you to use your connections and fix this right now." I read it twice. I had already asked Rosa to assign someone else to coat check that morning. I wasn't there as staff, I had other responsibilities. I thought about Marcus saying, "She's just not in a position to be at the table," through a kitchen door. I put my phone down, I stood up. I walked through my building, past the bar Rosa had helped me choose, past my grandmother's photo, and I walked to the front doors. If you need to hear what happened next, stay with me. I unlocked the front doors from the inside and pushed them open. The family was standing on the steps. Vanessa saw me first. She said, "Jade, thank God. Do you know the manager? Can you get us in?" I said, "Come inside. We need to resolve a few things before the event can begin." She looked past me into the lobby. Marcus was already reading the framed LLC registration I keep on the wall by the entrance, the one with my name on it, the street name, the date of acquisition. He went very still. Vanessa said, "What is?" and then she stopped. She looked at Marcus. She looked at me. She said, "This is your building." I said, "It has been for 2 years." The room was quiet in the specific way rooms get quiet when everyone is recalculating at the same time. Vanessa's event planner was looking at her clipboard. Vanessa's friends were looking at Vanessa. Marcus was still looking at the wall. I said, Rosa will walk you through what needs to be resolved. Rosa brought out 3 documents. The outstanding balance invoice, the revised headcount compliance form, the 72 dinner slot guests would need to be formally removed or the overage balance paid in advance, and the conduct addendum for the vendor disputes. Marcus watched Rosa set the papers on the reception desk. He said, there has to be another way to handle this. Rosa said, this is the way we handle it. Marcus looked at me. He said, Jade. Come on, I said, this is how the building works, Marcus. He was quiet. Then he said, 6 months ago I tried to acquire this property through a corporate contact. I thought it was still distressed. Their lawyers blocked every approach and said the LLC owner had no interest in any deal. I said, that's correct. He looked at the registration on the wall. His jaw moved, but he didn't say anything else. I had seen his name on the acquisition inquiry list. Rosa had flagged it. I had told her to decline and say nothing. That landed in the room without a sound. I gave Vanessa 30 minutes. She sat at the reception desk with Rosa and went through it line by line. She paid the outstanding balance, all of it, from her phone. She removed the 72 dinner slot guests from the confirmed list. She signed the conduct addendum. She did not argue. I think part of her understood that arguing was not available to her in this room. When it was done, Rosa handed her a copy and said, the event can begin whenever you're ready. Vanessa stood up. She looked at me for a long moment, then she said, I didn't know. I said, I know you didn't. She said, I wouldn't have, if I had known. I said, I know. Marcus was sitting in one of the lobby chairs. He hadn't moved much since the acquisition conversation. Mom had gone quiet in a way I had never seen before, the same silence she had in that kitchen 3 years ago, except this time I think it meant something different. I didn't make a speech. I just walked back toward my office and let Rosa open the main hall. The party happened. It was fine. Afterward was when things got real. The apologies came that evening, after the guests had gone, after the vendors had been paid in full, after Vanessa's event planner had quietly packed up and left. Vanessa found me in my office. She said, I owe you more than an apology. I said, you owe me the balance you already paid. That's settled. She said, Jade, the coat check thing, the way I introduced you to people. I treated you like. She stopped. I let her stop. She said, I didn't see you. I said, I know. Marcus came in a few minutes later. He sat down. He didn't say much. He said, I said things about you that I shouldn't have said. I said, I heard them. He said, I know. Rosa was the last one in. She had been closing up the hall. She looked at the photo on my wall, my grandmother's kitchen, the copper pots, the yellow curtains, and she said, your grandmother would have loved this building. I didn't say anything for a while. That was the moment, not the locked door, not Marcus's face. That was the one. 1 year after Vanessa's birthday, I held my own celebration in that building. 12 people. Every one of them had shown up when things were hard, when I had nothing, when my family was explaining me to relatives through kitchen doors. Rosa was there. My grandmother had passed the winter before I acquired the building, but her copper pot was on the bar counter because I put it there. I ordered what she used to make for every celebration, baked chicken with lemon and herbs, the recipe on a note card I have kept in my wallet since I was 17. It was a quiet evening. Nobody needed to prove anything. My relationship with Vanessa is different now, careful, slowly rebuilt. Marcus and I talk occasionally. The building is doing well. Some people need a locked door to finally see you clearly. I hope you never need one. But if you do, make sure you're the one holding the keys. If this story stayed with you, like this video, subscribe so you never miss one, and tell me in the comments, has someone ever dismissed you and then needed you? The building was mine the whole time. They just couldn't see it until they were standing outside it.